Welcome to Chisholm Trail 61. We're going to jump on here and do a video tonight. We're cooking some deer steak along with some venison gravy to go along with supper. So ingredients we're going to need is I got about a cup of flour. You can use all-purpose or self-rising in the bowl. We got salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, and smoked paprika. And of course, star of the show, we got a pack of some deer steaks. So let's make our way over to the stove and we'll get this going. Okay, we're going to be using some bacon grease to put in the skillet with the cast iron skillet. So if you ever cook deer meat, you notice that deer meat is sort of dry. So you need to put some type of grease in your skillet to get it cooked in. Because believe me, if you don't grease up your skillet, put grease in there, then you're just going to have a bunch of dry meat that's not going to be worth eating. So we're going to let our grease melt there. And while our grease is melting in our cast iron skillet, we're going to go back and put our ingredients together to dip our steak in. Okay, like I said before, we got about a cup of flour in the pan. We're using self-rising. You can use all-purpose. We're going to put probably about a half tablespoon of salt, about a half tablespoon of pepper. We're going to put just about a tablespoon of garlic powder. About a tablespoon of onion powder. And then probably about a tablespoon of smoked paprika. And you can use the regular paprika. I prefer the smoked myself. It just gives it that smoky flavor that seems to taste better. And then we're going to take our whisk. We're just going to whisk all that together. Get it mixed up real good. And yes, you're going to get a little bit of a dust off of it, but that's par for the course. Okay, now we're ready to go, and I believe our grease is melted over there, so let's go back over to the stove and we'll get these steaks cooking. Okay, we got our steaks out here. Now all we're going to do, we hadn't dried them or anything, we're just going to dip them in the flour that we seasoned. Dip 3 or 4 of them in there right fast like, and then we'll just flip them over. Be sure we get them coated good. We don't really need a heavy coating on them, but we do want to make sure we get them coated all over. And then we're just going to sort of shake them off, and we'll lay them in our skillet. And you see that little sizzle around the meat there? That lets you know that your skillet's ready and it's cooking. That's just what we want. So that'll not only cook our steaks, but it'll put a little sear coating on them. We're just going to finish dipping the rest of them here. Some of them are smaller than others. This actually off of a deer my buddy Bobby Hicks gave me. He killed back a couple months ago. It was a nice one. Little doe. Sure has some tender meat. So, Bobby, I thank you a lot for that. We're just going to get all these in our thing. And we're going to put a lid on it. We're going to let it cook for about 5 minutes on that side, and then we'll flip it over and cook it about 5 minutes on the other side. So we'll be back in about 5 minutes. Hey guys, it's been about 4 or 5 minutes, so we're going to flip our steaks over. You can see how they're starting to get done there. You can tell when they get ready on one side, they sort of get that brown glaze to them. We'll just flip them over one at a time. You just have to flip them over. It don't take long to cook venison. Venison will cook quicker than you think it will. So if you're not careful, it'll burn on you. So you really got to stay on top of it when you're cooking it. Uh, and we'll just let them go for another 4 or 5 minutes there, and we'll be back then. Okay, it's been long enough now. Our meat should be fixed and ready. You can see how it comes off. Let me grab this plate over here. Those are some good done steaks right there. The deer meat, the venison, whatever you want to call it. It's some good meat anyway. And going to make some good gravy. We're fixing to make some gravy out of this right here. As soon as I get all this out of the skillet here, we're going to be ready to do our gravy. And you don't want to scrape your gravy, your drippings out, because that's all flavor in there. You see all them little pieces of meat and stuff in there? That's all flavor in there. So what we want to do, we want to take and just add a couple of tablespoons of flour to our grease here. So we're just going to get us a couple tablespoons and sort of sprinkle it around. And we're going to make us a roux almost. Just scrape it around so we can get all those. You see those little pieces of meat come up off of the bottom? That's all that flavor of that deer meat coming in there. I want to let your flour cook down for a couple of minutes, because if you don't, you'll be tasting raw flour, and believe me, nobody wants to taste raw flour. So get that stirred around some. Get all the stuff up off of the bottom. Let our flour get cooked in good. Just keep stirring, because you don't want to burn your flour either. Now, flour burns real easy, so you have to be careful. You have to stay on top of it and really watch it. So you let it cook down until it gets brown about like you want it. Like I said, just make you a little roux like that. Just keep stirring it and let it get cooked down. Now what we're going to use in our gravy, we're going to use chicken broth for our gravy. So chicken broth just has that good flavor for gravy. And what you want to do, you just want to add a little bit at a time and stir it around. And you'll see it go to thickening almost immediately. Just keep pouring a little bit and stirring a little bit. This is a 16-ounce can of chicken broth I got here, which I'll use it, and then I'll probably have to add a little bit of water to it as well. But we're going to go with this and see where this takes us to. Because depending on how much grease you have in your pan, in your skillet, and how much flour you add to your skillet, as to how much liquid you're going to have to add. Yeah. A good roux is made with an even amount of flour and grease. So whatever amount of grease you have in your skillet, you want to try to put about that same amount of flour in there. We're going to add just a little bit of water to it. Just keep stirring it. Gravy is something that is just really hard to mess up. A lot of people think whenever they fix a gravy and it gets too thin on them, they've messed it up, and they get frustrated and throw it out. But the thing about it is, if you get your gravy too thin, just let it cook a little bit longer. Now you can add more flour to it. Once you add a liquid to it, you know, your chicken broth, your water, whatever you want, you can't go back and add flour to it then, because you'll just get that flour taste. But you can let it cook, just simmer for a few minutes if you need to, and your gravy will thicken up. You want it about like that, about where whenever you scrape your pan, like I'm doing there stirring, you see the bottom of your pan. That's about the right consistency for the gravy. So we're good on that. So now we're just going to take our bowl. We're going to set all this out of our way. And we're going to take and just pour our gravy over into our bowl here. That's all goodness there. And if y'all people was here, I would invite you to stay and have supper with me. But since you're not, I guess I'm going to have to eat this by myself. But just to show you, it's not hard. Deer steak and venison gravy. We appreciate it. Give us a thumbs up. If you would, please like, share, comment, share the knowledge. Come back and see us on the next video. We appreciate it.